Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Alexander, and in this video we play a 2-3 session at the Bicycle in Bell Gardens, California. Real quick, I just wanted to make a poker vlog because I like watching Andrew Nemi, Brad Owen, Mariano Poker, Johnny Vibes, all those people, and I really like reading all the comments and learning from people that are way better than me. I'm just gonna post a bunch of hands from sessions that I play now and in the future. And if you guys like it, hit the subscribe button, comment down below what I did wrong in some of the hands or how you would have played them differently, because that's the whole point of this channel. I just want to learn, I want to grow, and maybe we can all grow together. One thing I pride myself on is my video editing. I've been a video editor for a couple of YouTubers such as Vitaly and some other people. So one thing I'm going to try to incorporate into my vlogs is just good quality in general, good montages, hand histories, just very clean, concise, and appealing. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So the first hand, we look down and see King of Hearts, Jack of Clubs in the cutoff. We're playing around 280 effective, and the under the gun +1, who is generally a tight player thus far, raises to $12. I call, the button calls, and the small blind calls. So we're going 4 ways to the flop with around $48 in it, which comes 10-7 deuce with 2 hearts. The initial raiser, under the gun +1, checks. I check, the small blind checks, and the big blind checks. The turn comes the king of diamonds, so we flop top pair with the jack kicker. Under the gun +1 bets $25 and only I call. At this point, I'm putting him on ace king, king queen, basically 2 overcards on the flop that connected with the king on the turn, so I just call. The river comes the queen of spades. He now bets $80 into around a $100 pot, and I'm in the tank. I'm thinking, what does he have here that's raising from under the gun, that checked the flop, bet the turn with a king, and now that I'm beating on the river with king jack? So I end up showing him a king, and I lay the hand down. He looks a little bit upset, like how could I not call that? And honestly, I think it's fine to be calling this some portion of the time, but just the way he played it and his player type, I thought it was better just to lay it down and on to the next one. Next hand, we look down and see 6-4 of spades from middle position. We lost that last hand, so we're sitting around 250 effective. Under the gun +2 limps, and I classify him as an action player. I raised to 15 trying to isolate the action player, and that's exactly what happens. Everybody else folds, and he calls. So we're going 2 ways to the flop with around $35 in it, and it comes ace-7-5. I have the up and down straight draw, and I have the range advantage with the ace. So it checks to me, I bet $15, and he folds. Easy game. Our table starts to die off, so we ask for a table change. We're granted it, and the first hand we look down at kings. On the button, $250 effective. Unfortunately, it folds to me, so there's no dead money in the pot, but I raise to $12, hoping to get either the small blind or the big blind involved out of position with the monster, but they both fold. Next, we pick up queen 10 of spades in the cutoff. It's folded to us, so we're gonna raise it up to $12, a standard late position raise at 2-3. The small blind then 3-butts us to $25. Up until this point, I'd classify him as a tighter player, but I've seen him splash around post-flop, so maybe tight aggressive. The flop comes ace-4-9, 2 spades. He checks, and I check behind. I don't want to get blown off my hand if he has an ace, and I have the spade draw, so I just check behind, looking to realize my equity on the turn and then make a move then. That's exactly what I do. The turn comes the 7 of spades, so we pick up the queen high flush. He then bets $25, And at this point, I'm going to put him on some kind of ace, maybe pocket kings, pocket queens, something that was good pre-flop, and maybe he played tricky on the flop or pot controlled with under pair to the ace. So he bets $25. I raise it up to 60. I think that we could go a little bit bigger here, maybe 75 or 80, but I size down to 60, really trying to keep his entire range in there. Like I said, if he has jacks, I want to keep jacks in there. So he tank calls. We're going heads up to the river with 170 in it, and he then checks to me. I bet $100, so a little bit over half pot, and he snap calls. So it seems like we left a little bit of value on the table because we show our hand, he mucks, and we're good. So I think we played this fine. Sometimes on the flop we can be betting with our spade draw. When he checks it to us, he's probably not going to have too many aces unless he's trying to be tricky. If we would have done that, the pot would have been a little bit bigger by the river, but I think given the way we played the flop, the turn raise, and the river 60% pot bet, we got a good amount of value. Next hand, we pick up pocket sixes in the big blind. Prior to this hand, two Asian girls sat down with around $200 each. They're probably ages 20 to 40, to quote Jeff Boski. One of them proceeded to punt off her entire $200 stack on the turn in a three-way all-in pot with the bottom end of a four-liner on the board straight. She had ace-4 offsuit. The board was 5, 6, 7, 8. Of course, she lost. Someone had the 9. Someone had the 9, 10. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here, the table dynamic going into this hand. We have sixes in the big blind with around $375 in our stack. There's four limpers to the small blind. He completes. I then check my option. The flop, going five ways, comes 2, 3, 4. Small blind checks, I check. It actually checks all the way around. The turn is the deuce, so there's two deuces now on board. I check. The under the gun now bets $10. Going back to the middle position, he calls, the small blind calls. I call, getting around 4 to 1, and if a 5 comes out, I have a straight. A 6 comes out, I have top boat. So we're going to put in the $10 here and go to the river. The river comes the king of diamonds. I check. The under the gun now bets $23, and middle position folds. It comes back around to me, and I don't think this is a slam dunk call here all the time. So I try to get a little bit out of him by talking to him. I say, will you show if I show one? He says yes, doesn't really understand what I'm saying. I tell him then I have a pocket pair and start cutting out the $23 to call. And he starts talking a lot more than he was prior. And just that, along with the fact that I have pocket sixes and there's only one overcard to my sixes, I put in the call, and he says we're good, we show, he mucks, and we pick up a $104 pot. You got Next hand, we look down at ace of hearts, jack of diamonds with around $315 in our stack. We're in the big blind, and there's two limpers to the small blind who ends up completing, and it's on me. I don't really want to go four ways to a flop with ace jack offsuit, so I'm going to raise it to $16 and try to isolate one person. That's exactly what happens. Favorably, just a small blind calls, so we're actually in position from the big blind. Going heads up to the flop with around $40 in it, it comes queen 8-4 with two hearts, and now he leads into me for $35. When he leads into me here, I'm putting him on either a made hand or a flush draw, so possibly queen jack, but I block that, king queen, or just two hearts that want to take control of the pot here. So when he leads into me for $35, I make the call. The turn is the 10 of hearts, so now we pick up the 4 flush with the ace of heart nuts, and we also have the gutter to the king for the straight. He now checks it over to me, So now I'm thinking he has something with a queen in it, scared of the heart and wants a pot control. So when he checks it over to me, I take control back over the pot and I bet $50. And he takes a couple seconds and makes the call. So I'm not loving this here because he's probably going to get a little sticky if another heart doesn't come off. I also do not have a made hand, so I need to hit a king or a heart to realize some equity in value bet on the river. Fortunately for us, the river comes the king of hearts, so both of our draws get there, but we're going to play the ace of hearts for the nuts, and he now checks it back over to us in flow, which makes sense. And I look at his stack. He only has around $105 left, and the pot's around $210. So this is a no-brainer all in. Hopefully he has a heart in his hand with his most likely flopped queen on the flop. So I put him in for 105, and he tanks for around 30 to 45 seconds. Ultimately, begrudgingly makes the fold, and we win a $313 pot. It's nice when the draws come in. Next, we look down and see ace of hearts, 10 of clubs from the cutoff. There's 2 limps to me, so I'm going to try to isolate in position and raise to $14. Just the big blind and one of the middle position limpers call. So we're going 3 ways to a flop, which comes deuce, 4-4 with 2 spades. We don't have any spades. It checks around to me, and I'm going to put in a C bet on a pretty dry board unless someone has spades. And so I make it $25 into around 55, just seeing where I'm at. The big blind then raises me to $75. This guy in particular, he likes to make moves. He likes to play against the opponent rather than what cards he has in his hand. At least that's what it seemed like so far. So with the ace high here and not really believing his story, thinking maybe he has spades or something trying to blow me off knowing that I have 2 overcards, I make the call. We're going 2 ways to the river in a bloated pot, which comes the king of diamonds. And now he jams immediately with around 350 in his stack covering me. And I think it's a pretty no-brainer fold in this position. There's some merit to consider that if he has spades, he could be doing this. But nonetheless, I'm not going to punt off my stack with ace high, so I fold, telling him that I think I'm putting him on a spade draw. And he shows a deuce. So either he had deuces full or he was just correct in his assumption that a pair of deuces was good. Either way, he takes the pot. On to the next one. In the last hand of the night, we pick up ace 10 of diamonds in the under the gun position. I initiate by raising to $14. And the under the gun +2, who I've noticed is a regular 5-5 player at the bike, calls. He instigates the middle position to call, who instigates the big blind to call. So we're going 4 ways to the flop with around $56 in the pot, which comes queen, 4-5, 2 spades, and 1 diamond. I check, everybody else checks. We're headed to the turn, which comes to 6 of diamonds. So now I pick up a diamond draw. The big blind now leads out for $20. With my diamond draw, I can think about putting in a raise here if I want to have a high variance line, but instead I just call, trying to realize my equity, and if other people come along with a 1 pair type hand or also a diamond draw, if my draw gets there, I can win a larger pot. I call, the under the gun +2 regular calls, and everybody else folds. So we're going 3 ways to the river, which comes the deuce of clubs, a brick. Now the initiator on the turn checks to me, and I'm left with ace high here, probably going against a 1 pair type hand from the under the gun +2 player and a draw that missed from the turn better. So I think a bet is in order here. I bet $65, which is a little over half pot. Under the gun +2 folds, and the big blind folds as well, and I win $176 pot. Thank you. Thanks for watching to the end of my video. Click my head below to subscribe and stay in the loop. See you next time.